play and call it work.
Hello there, party people, and welcome to this week's Sit and Talk. You are joined by Luka here from MiniWarGaming.com, and this show is simply me sitting here for about an hour, or I try my best to make it an hour, because it goes longer, where I just answer questions that you've left for me from last week's Sit and Talk, which was Josh. And next week, we always kind of continue this series going, will be Matthew. Steve hasn't done it, or Steve won't be doing it next week, just because he's having a hard time fitting into the schedule. And he's very busy, so we're just he's just subbing out for a bit until things lighten up for him. It'll be Matthew next week, so if you have any questions for the boss and owner of Mini Wargaming, one of them, Dave being another one, please leave them down below. And Dave does his own show on Wednesdays, Shrine of Chaos. So if you're curious to ask Dave any questions, catch him on that live stream. We do this. When do we release these? I'm horrible for the scheduling. I can't quite remember the day that the Sit and Talks come out, but regardless, I ramble. Matthew is next week, so if you have any questions for him, please leave them down below, preferably on the Mini Wargaming website, because that's mostly where we always look for our questions. And we might go to YouTube if we need further questions to look there for questions, but I said the word questions a lot in a short period of time. Anyways, next week Matthew, this week me talking to you. I haven't screened these questions yet. I have no idea what's coming forward. I don't often anyways, so it's always a little bit more of a surprise and a little more entertaining when it comes to just seeing what you've left for me, right? So I guess without further ado, let's get into this, because I have pretty good timing actually when this hour should be up, and I will have no problem making it at least an hour, but I'm going to not waste too much of your time. So continue painting, doing whatever it is you're doing right now, and I don't know, maybe I can make this entertaining for you. So the first question is by, well, I mean, the names themselves are interesting to try and pronounce. They're all one word, right? So it's hard to find where it stops. Wald in Sam Kiet? Wald in Sam Kiet. Or maybe it's, maybe this is another Shamu Solari again. Oh. Anyways, Luka, really enjoyed watching you and Josh playing Bolt Action, and it has gotten my interest high enough to order my first army box. Are we going to be seeing more on the channel? And if so, how am I finding the game? And is there any other armies and builds I want to try? Now, Bolt Action, there's going to be a lot more Bolt Action on the channel. We're trying to do it, as of right now, once a month for some Bolt Action. And I'm pretty much just focusing on the Germans right now. We've gotten in some new Conflict 47 stuff, and if you're not familiar with what Bolt Action is, it is a World War II historical game, and Conflict 47 is the hypothetical situation if the war never ended, and if it continued on, all the weird occult stuff and science experiments that the nations were, studying or experimenting with, like Nazi zombies or weird gravity guns, American soldiers with jump packs and lightning guns, and walking heavy infantry and like power armor, that kind of thing. That's Conflict 47. It's pretty fun, and it's kind of goofy. It puts a twist, like a kind of a funny, goofy twist on an otherwise pretty serious war game. Being World War II, being kind of close to the chest still, right? Not too far off. Anyways, how do I like Bolt Action? I think its rule set is outstanding. It is very reminiscent of old school philosophy rules writing, and that's obviously evident in those who spearhead the rules writing for Bolt Action. You can see a lot of elements from, I'll say, old 40K, right? Stuff like that. Stuff I really like, minutia and charts and things that just make sense. I mean, the rule set's tight, and I haven't found any interactions where it's like, well, I mean, it's intended to work like this, but technically this works. I haven't found any of those myself, but a lot of the game is common sense in, you can't hurt that vehicle with that kind of gun, or these guys, their physical limitations are like this, or this is how that works. I love all of that stuff. It's an outstanding rule set, and it's a nice change of pace from, constantly playing Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40K. It helps to change up what we play. I play a lot of games. Like, I don't only play Warhammer 40K and AOS. If I had to play Warhammer 40K or AOS 5 or 6 days a week, I would get burnt out pretty quick. Much like anyone would, I assume. But I play a lot of like Horus Heresy, Warhammer Fantasy, Bolt Action, a lot of other games too. But like Battlefleet Gothic, Blood Bowl, but they come by the wayside. They go, they come. Titanicus. There's a lot of games, and you have to remember the rules for all those games too. or else, you get scrutinized by all the people that actually really know the rules because they play that game all the time. We try our best. But we play a lot of games. They play a lot of armies in these games. So for now, bolt action, I'm probably just going to stick with Germans. I know their rules. I understand them. They're very basic. I also would like to point out, I love the idea of things that are similar. Like a Russian veteran is the same as a German veteran. The only thing that really makes them different are their nation rules. Like the Germans they have better machine guns, and their officers and their soldiers are all kind of briefed on the mission. So like if you lose an officer from a unit, it's not that devastating for the German forces, whereas the Russians get a completely different set of rules. And it's very subtle differences in your armies that make them feel like they play differently, but you're kind of using the same pieces, and that's always fun to do. It's also very stressful and high anxiety too, because it's a smaller scale skirmish game where you have fewer models that have more impactful, like attacks are very impactful, but like it's like single shots that hit on 4s and 5s that could alter the course of the rest of the game if it hits. But it's on a 4 or 5, so it's like, oh my gosh, if this hits, I'm in such a great position. But it's only one shot, and it's probably just gonna miss, right? You could spend 600 points on a tank that's got a bunch of machine guns, but the only thing that really matters is that one shell, that one super heavy anti-tank gun that honestly is probably just gonna be hitting on 4s most of the game, and you're paying like over half your army is this one tank. Like, that's ludicrous. So that's where the anxiety comes from. Anyways, I think it's an excellent game. I've had a lot of fun playing it. Probably just going to focus on different builds for the Germans. And Josh plays pretty much his Americans for now, but he can always go back and play the Russians. But that's kind of what it looks like for now. And yes, there'll be more bolt action coming out later on. Like Josh and I just recorded one 2 days ago. Or was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I've somehow forgotten. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday. Next question, though. Wavy Gravy 74. Luka, any weight loss tips, or can you let us know what worked for you at least? Everything works differently for everyone, I suppose. Like, what I could tell you wouldn't work for, maybe won't work for anyone listening in, right? I just went on an extreme diet that pretty much said that I pretty much told myself, okay, I've always tried diets in the past. I've always been up and down in weight. I've gone up to 300 pounds. I think like before the pandemic, I was around like 290 pounds. And I'm like, maybe I should drop this. Maybe, I've let myself go a little bit here. And so I did. But I've tried diets in the past where I got that heavy and it just didn't work at all. And those diets would be like, well, just eat less, exercise more. Sure. It works. That works for some people. For me, like once I get a taste, just a taste of the good stuff, man. My weakness has always been chocolate or ice cream or baked goods. I don't like candy, but I do like teas or coffees with a lot of sugar in them, or at least I used to. I'm good now. I don't actually like that so much anymore. But, give a man a cookie and he'll take a dozen. Give a man a scoop of ice cream, he'll eat the tub. That was always my issue. So I pretty much just told myself I cannot eat that stuff anymore until I get to the weight I'm at, or a weight I want to be at. And then, I'll divulge until I'm content with myself, and I'm getting better at not like, maybe I just want a handful of chips or whatever. I don't need to eat the entire bag in 5 minutes. That was always my problem. And I would also eat too much, regular food on top of that. I just love food. I love food so much, guys. It's a problem. It's evidently a problem. So, I would eat like a full meal that would probably feed 2 or 3 people, and I'd feel great about it. And then I'd eat half a pie afterwards. You could see where issues would arise. So I lost a lot of weight before I started showing up in mini wargaming, because I was pretty heavy before that. And then I got a car and I put on like 20 pounds because I used to bike everywhere. But anyways, I digress. I'm having rambling issues right now. I simply just told myself I'm not allowed to eat anything that would be not great for me, and I would just regulate the regular types of food I would eat. So, I've always liked black coffee, never minded black coffee, but I just liked coffee with sugar and cream in a little bit more. So I said, well, why not just drink black coffee instead? And I don't need any potatoes with my meal. Instead, I'll just have vegetables and meat instead. And then that was like, maybe I'll cut my portions down. So pretty much went on I essentially did the keto diet, and I lost quite a bit of pounds. I lost 75 pounds on that. And then now I'm pretty much at the point where I'm like on and off. I've gotten kind of lazy with it, but I've gotten also to a weight where I'm pretty happy with that too. And that's kind of all I cared about. Find something that works for you. I'm sorry, I don't have good advice. The keto diet definitely does not work for a lot of people. It only works for me because every other option wasn't great. I couldn't control what I ate. The second I would tell myself like, oh, I'll have like one peanut butter cup, I'll have 6. You guys get the idea, right? So if I told myself I could have none, I would have none. And it was easier that way, for me at least. I don't know, just all I can say is find what works for you. I've tried a lot of things in the past that never worked. I mean, obviously good balance of diet and exercise. I do exercise. I don't just diet. I exercise. But I've always exercised, but I would always eat. I would never exercise to equate to the portions of food I would eat before, right? I'm not like, I would eat like sometimes like 5,000 to 7,000 calories of food in a day, but only exercise for like a couple of hours every other day. So that does not work out, right? So if you understand that, you understand where my issue was. Next question is from Bulldoze. Luka, thoughts on the heresy leaks? Real? Fake? Question mark. Are you excited? What do you hope for the future of the heresy? Thanks for your work. Little heart. I thought that it was interesting. I know Josh showed it to me the second he's seen it because he's very, very excited for any news on the Horus Heresy. It is one of our favorite games. I love the idea of the potential plastic Spartan. For what the leaks were, if you're not familiar, it was images leaked online. And it was of Horus Heresy models, certain marks of power armor that were not plastic before, that were most certainly plastic now. And different like weapons for dreadnoughts and things that were not plastic before but are most certainly plastic now. And in the background there was like a Spartan assault tank that was very different from the forge-rolled resin Spartan assault tank, so therefore assumed to be a plastic Spartan assault tank, which is wild. I would be very excited for that plastic Spartan. I'm just excited for Heresy news in general. I don't really need any of the infantry stuff with that plastic Spartan. I got my peepers popped. I even got the Space Wolf door. I've been meaning to buy a Spartan for a bit now. I just haven't gotten around to it because, well, for the Horus Heresy, a Spartan is like, it's just like the obvious answer for a lot of legions. A lot of the legions that I want to play, I guess, close combat oriented ones. A Spartan is very hard to take down for any shooting army unless you're the Mechanicum and you have unless you just have haywire weapons, or the Mechanicum who have haywire weapons. But the Spartan was always a good pick. I wanted that and more Varigear Terminators for my Space Wolves to have obviously like the Space Wolf Death Star, which is like Terminators and Leman Russ. It's not super exciting, but it's kind of cool, maybe to do every now and then. It'd be a great addition to the army. I like the army as I run it now, but recording for mini wargaming here, you guys want to see different things than that. You don't want to see the exact same Space Wolf build every game. Some of you probably don't mind. But some of you are probably like, well, why don't you try something different? Well, I don't have different things yet. I got to get those different things still. And so the plastic Spartan and more Terminators would be technically different. I wouldn't mind some heavy weapon teams, but the problem is the Rite of War I like to run only allows one heavy support choice, so I can't really do Long Fangs and my Leviathan Siege Dreadnoughts, so it's kind of either or. But I mean, obviously I could just swap out the Leviathan Dreadnoughts for Long Fangs, and that'd be kind of cool. I could do like a squad of 10 of them or something. Not that Space Wolves has specific rules for heavy support teams. I just call them Long Fangs because that's what they're called in 40k. Next question is A. Overton. Hey Luka, I'm trying to figure out what I want to prioritize in my paint queue for a Necron army. What would be a fun or all-around 500-point list? If I was just to paint a 500-point list of Necrons right now, what would it look like? Ooh, yikes. I never think down at 500 points. What does a 500-point Necron list look like? Probably Cryptek. Or Lord on Foot. Lord on Foot's not horrible, but it's a little pricey for 500 points. You could do... Is that 500 points? I'm trying to like imagine the points in my head right now. You could do like a Scorpek Lord and a bunch of Scorpek Destroyers, like 3 into 3. That's probably too much though. That's over 500 points. Oh. Or you could do like a Patrol. 10 Necron Warriors, no, that's too many points too. 5 Immortals and Scorpek Destroyers, that'd be kind of fun. Scorpek Destroyers are pretty good. I guess your list could very well be like a Scorpek Lord Immortals and like a squad of 6 Scorpek Destroyers. That might, 85 plus, I think 230 for the Scorpek Destroyers? Man, I can't, ooh. But I mean, I would, maybe you could do that. A Scorpek Lord with some Immortals for some very minor backline fire sword, essentially something to stand on an objective in a 500-point game. And then it would just be Scorpek Destroyers with Whirling Onslaught as a stratagem, running around with a Scorpek Lord, giving them rerolling Moon Rolls 1. And he himself is pretty good in combat too. I wouldn't be bad. I mean, sure, it's something, right? It's something. Or you could go the route of warriors, and you could have a couple squads of 10 warriors and like a technomancer to try and bring some of them back, and maybe what is that, 200, are they 13 points? Are they 12 points? I can't remember if they're 12. They're 13 points model, so it's like 130, so it's 260 points plus like a crypt tech, which is about 100 points, so 360 points. You got 140 points to play with. You can do another squad. You can do 30 Necron warriors and a crypt tech, which would be the worst. But that extra 140 points, you could do. Oh, you can do scarabs. You can do a classic Necron build. It's pretty basic too, because it's just boxes of warriors, right, and like a crypt tech. So you do like a couple units of warriors with reapers, and you can do the scarabs to go along with them, and you could have a technomancer. That'd be kind of a cool build too. That could be 500 points. I don't know how effective that would be at 500 points. It wouldn't be bad. It wouldn't be great though either. I think I like the Scorpic build a little bit more, but that could be maybe annoying to play against. At 500 points, that might be a little oppressive. Hard to, like, they're already pretty tough to kill with shooting, but there's like other melee armies that can beat them up. But the Scorpic Destroyers do so much damage that they might get the jump on whatever, unless they're getting charged by another devastating unit afterwards. Oh, it's tough to say. Tough to say. I apologize if that was not as insightful as you would hope. I can't imagine a 500-point Necron army right now, or at least a good one. Probably no overlords. Probably too expensive for like what an overlord does. You can do like an overlord, some Lich Guard, and immortals. That'd be kind of cool. Actually, I don't mind that. Like a couple squads of like one squad of immortals, whatever size, like whatever fills the points out, and overlord and some Lich Guard. That'd be kind of cool too. Yeah, maybe there's another option for you. Whatever equates to 500 points. I can't tell you on that one. We have Shrag911. Hey, Luka, Mr. the Dice, what changes, if any, would you like to see for the Ultramarines if/when they get a new book? What changes would I like to see for the Ultramarines? I feel like I guess I'm the only one who really dabbles in Ultramarines here. And not that I play them a lot. I just every now and then I play them. What changes? Well, Gilliman is... I wouldn't mind seeing a rewrite for Gilliman's rules, just because the iterations of his rules have changed so much since the beginning of 8th edition. You know, at first he was amazing. Reroll all hit and wound rules for Ultramarines within 6 inches of him. Way too powerful. Way too good. And then it was like reroll hit rolls 1 for Imperium at 12, or reroll +1 to charge rolls and stuff like that. Those are kind of cool rules, but we soup less now. So not super important. And I think, I'll be honest, rerolling, now what he does is he just, crap, does he pick a unit to reroll? And he's got battle rights? Oh man, I apologize. All I know is he has an aura of rerolling wound rolls of 1, and I'm pretty sure it's still an aura of rerolling all hit rolls, or if it's an aura of rerolling hit rolls of 1, and then he can pick a character and another unit nearby to reroll hit rolls. A little lackluster, a little boring, but that's kind of like the Space Marine thing. He pretty much counts as a chapter master and a lieutenant built into one model with great close combat capabilities. And he gives you 3 command points. I guess he does kind of feel Ultramarine fitting, which is to say not very exciting rules over the top, but like good commanding rules, and he's a great frontline fighter too. He's a Primarch after all. What could he do? I would like to see him do counter-tactic things kind of well, like manipulate, something to do with stratagems. I wouldn't mind to see him do something with stratagems where he can interact with your own Ultramarine stratagems, or he can mess with the enemy stratagems, kind of like a reactionary thing, like the Codex Astartes. If this, then this, right? If this is true, then you do this. So if the opponent uses this stratagem, do this in response to it. That'd be kind of cool, I think. I would like to see those on Gilliman, or maybe that could be an Ultramarine thing in general. I'm not too sure. That could do something with the Warlord trait. So if your Warlord's around, then you know he's an adept of the Codex Astartes. He's well versed in it. I mean, like, all the Ultramarines are well-versed in the Codex Astartes, but, like, this guy's, like, really well-versed in it, right? And then Gilliman would have that Warlord trait by default. Or he could have, like, a better version of it, or a more impactful version of it. I think that might be kind of a fun rule. On top of what he already does, I would say. Scrap the Imperium crap. Like, you don't need that. I mean, sure, you could have it, but you're not... I don't know if too many people soup too much anymore anyway, so it's... All I see those rules for is... it affects Ultramarines at a further distance to a lesser effect. So he like lets Ultramarines within 6 reroll all hit rolls and wound rolls of 1, but at 12 inches away, he lets them reroll hit rolls of 1 and +1 of their charge rolls, I believe. So I mean, I guess you could keep that. It could just be built into one rule though, and then maybe only affect Ultramarines. But it's fine that it affects Imperium too. If for those who do like to mix up their armies, because I understand completely. You know what? Keep those rules. That's fine, because it does 100% make sense that the Reborn Primarch, the Avenging Sun, is back. And heck yeah, Guardsman finds that inspiring, or even a Custodian would find that inspiring, I'd imagine. I think the Custodians or they have a little bit of aversion towards the Primarchs, understandably. Loyal or not loyal. Ultramarines in general, I think I'd like to see them manipulate stratagems a little bit more, and then just like rework their own stratagems, because a lot of them are kind of... I like the redeploy one, that one's fun. I'd like to just see a lot more reactionary things. They're always adapting. The idea is they always have an answer to whatever the opponent can bring. You know, the whole theoretical versus practical philosophy. The opponent did this. All right, in theory, we should do that. But in practice, we'll do this instead. I would like to see something like that pop up in their rules. I think that'd be fun. And I assume any Ultramarine player out there would agree with me. But a veteran Ultramarine player would probably have better suggestions than I would. Or maybe they're biased. Maybe they wouldn't have better suggestions. Maybe I'm biased. I don't actually know. Because then, well, I guess you can know if you're being biased. And you're just like, I'm just being biased right now. Yeah, okay. Pellinor. Hey, Luka. After watching some of your 40k battle reports, I decided to start a Necron force. Got any suggestions for a first-time Necron Overlord? Well. You can never go wrong with Necron Warriors and Scarabs. They are kind of your bread and butter. And Necrons right now fill the role of a great army that just frustrates your opponent and their plans. You're so durable. Like, there's like, okay, I'm going to kill that unit. Crap, I didn't kill that unit. Okay, I'm going to get that objective. Crap, they're on that. They reanimated on that objective. They just manipulate the battlefield to take away. Your opponent thinks they have a plan to mess with the Necrons, and the Necrons just stifle that. You know, and that's kind of what they're good at doing right now. They frustrate your opponent, which, you know, I always get a good laugh out of. What is good? I'll list out some good units. You can't go wrong with a Nightbringer. Nightbringer, very good. That is a Catan Nightbringer. Though I will warn you, not super fun for a lot of people to play against, because people like to kill things. They like to look at a threat and be like, okay, that's a big threat to my army. I'm going to try and kill that. Not so easy to do with a Nightbringer. And plus, he's very anti-fun when it comes to defending against them, because it's like, oh, no invulnerable saves, no rules that, subvert damage, and I'm strength 14, hit on 2s, wound on 2s pretty much all the time. So have fun, but not really. Anyways, a Nightbringer, I'll put that with an asterisk. It's a great addition to a Necron army, but you don't need it. Necron Warriors with Gauss Reapers, great bread and butter. Necron Scarabs, amazing. They come with the Warrior box, so boom, double win right there. Can't go wrong with Chronomancers. Out of all the Cryptex, there's 4 different types of Cryptex. There's Plasmancer. Oh, I cannot remember what the psychology one's called. Psychomancer? Probably not. Technomancer and a Chronomancer. I personally really like the They're all great. Well, the Plasmancer I'm not a huge fan of, but he does do mortal wounds, which is nice. You know, you don't have a whole lot of access to mortal wounds unless you're bringing Nightbringers or Catan Shards. But the Chronomancer, I think, is an excellent choice. Great with big squads of Scarabs, great with big squads of Warriors, even better with Scorpec Destroyers and Lich Guard with Sword and Board that you're sending out. You just give them a 5 of invulnerable save. End of story. They run off, and then they are phasing in and out of time, kind of like slowing time down. They're awesome. Chronomancers, outstanding, and they have a great like a single lance shot that does a lot of damage too. Assault weapons, so they can move around. They have fly. I love Chronomancers. If I had to tier them all, and my favorite picks, Chronomancer, Technomancer, the psychology one, because he can turn OBSEC off things, which is good. And then the Plasmancer, because all he really does is just damage. And if you really want damage, you can just build that elsewhere. You don't need to take up your HQ slots doing that. So I think your best bet is Chronomancer or Technomancer. You can do the Technomancer that buys the control node and makes Canoptic stuff better by improving their ballistic skill, I believe. And the other Technomancer heals things. So it's up to you whichever one you want to do. They're both different. I personally like the Chronomancer a lot, so you can't go wrong with that. Overlord on a Catacomb Command Barge is always fun, always good. Very durable, hard to kill. He does get Lookout Cert, which is great on such a mobile little platform. He has a bigger aura, My Will Be Done aura. And he's got a cool gun, and he can only be wounded on a 4-up, and you can pay a command point to give him a 4-up board save. That's cool. I love that. He's got quantum shielding built in. Great model. Royal Warden, absolutely necessary for Necron army running warriors. So your HQ choices, I would say you could do like Catacomb Command Barge, Overlord, or on foot. Doesn't really matter. I just prefer the Command Barge. Royal Warden, can't go wrong with it. It lets your units fall back, shoot, and charge. Mandatory. I'd say mandatory. And then you can run 2 Chronomancers, because as long as you have an Overlord or a Noble, I believe, then you're a second Cryptech. You could take a second Cryptech without taking up a 4-Sorg slot, so you can take 4 HQs in 3 slots and just run 1 battalion instead of having to pay for a second attachment. And then for troops, can't go wrong with Necron Warriors. Though, I mean, Immortals with Tesla went down a point, so I haven't really had a chance to try them out or theorize with them yet. So if you really like the idea of a tougher troop choice, then you can go Immortals instead if you want. But Warriors are a lot harder to deal with because they just have a big blob of 20 guys, right? And then a Resurrection Orb to bring them all back. Absolutely bring a Resurrection Orb. Really good on an Overlord. And I mean, if you don't want to go that route, if you want like more of a brutal melee build, then I would highly recommend a fun like maybe a couple Scorpec Destroyers with Lords with a couple of Scorpec Destroyer units with them, and then still bring Chronomancers because you want to give them a 5 of invulnerable save, and that's a cool build as well. And so those are like everything I just said there. That's all kind of good Necron stuff. Death Marks aren't bad because they can really mess with enemy reinforcements when they show up. They have a great range and line of sight to be able to shoot at reinforcements that show up for a command point, I believe. What else do I like? What else do I really like for Necrons? The Canoptic Doomwalkers. I think they're called Doomstalkers. They're the big War of the Worlds thing with the Doom gun on them. Those are pretty good if you have a Technomancer or the Control Node. Makes them hit on 3s. It's a good heavy weapon. You want good heavy weapons. But if you don't want that, I think it's a cool model though. If you don't want that, you can go Doomsday Arcs instead. Those are a little bit longer range, a little more expensive, but they have a lot more like flare shots on them, so a lot more like chaff killing too, so that can be kind of cool. But they typically don't move because they lose a lot of power on their shots if they move. I would not recommend having some backline fire support in the form of that. You can do Locust Heavy Destroyers too. The only problem with them is they're easy to kill, but they can hit like trucks if you take the heavy Gauss cannon on them. But I would probably lean towards do I do Doomsday Cannon? I think I like Doomsday Cannon a little bit more. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know if I like Doomsday Arc or Canoptic Doomstalkers more because the Doomstalkers look bis, but the Ghost Arc has a lot more like chaff killing and like just hits on 3s. You can keep Chronomancers and then still bring a Doomsday Arc, have a couple Doomsday Arcs in the back to support your firepower. And they're blasts now too, so like if you're fighting at elite infantry, like a 6-man squad or a 10-man squad, then you get those like minimum 3 shots. I think I would lean Doomsday Arc, but they're kind of a pain in the butt to build and paint, so take that into consideration, I suppose. But all that stuff I just listed there, I would like to call Necron good stuff. That you could rely on that. Next question is by Phantomas. Hey, Mr. Luka, Lord of the Rambles. Now that you played a few games of Soulblight, what are your thoughts? Thanks, Barry. Well, Barry, I think they are quite a bit better than I gave them credit for. Now, initially coming from the Legion of Nagash, which was like a crazy oppressive, very powerful book, not really fun to play against, but pretty fun to command. Then the Soulblight Gravelords came out, pretty much fundamentally different in how it wanted to play. If I had to put it into words, I would say the old Legions of Nagash book, where a good commander would use finesse to win with it, you could very easily win with it, kind of mindlessly throwing hordes of undead at your opponent until they just had no more will to play, which was awesome for an attrition-based army. Now, you have to play pretty smart, but you get pretty good effect out of your stuff. Zombies are great, Skeleton Warriors are outstanding, but like Skeleton Warriors used to be your hammer and anvil, now they're definitely more of an anvil. Not so much the hammer part. You have Graveguard for that, or you have like Vargeist can do that, Blood Knights can do that. You just, you don't have the end-all be-all in the form of like 120 skeletons in your army. I think that they're a lot better than I gave them credit for. They're a pretty good book. They're written for 3rd edition, so a lot of things make sense there. The Avengorii Lord and Luka I made fun of initially because I looked at their points cost and like, oh, these guys don't do anything. But you incorporate the new monster rules and you incorporate the new heroic actions of healing and stuff like that, and their save is amazing. They reduce Rend by 1, and now the way Mystic Shield and all the defense works, those guys are, oh man, they're awesome. The Avengorii Lord and the Luka, the named character, just awesome. Crazy cool models, cool rules. They work really well. The White King finally has a role now. It didn't before. Essentially, what I'm going to say is 3rd edition's come out. The book makes way more sense now, and people are doing shenanigans with dire wolves, and people are figuring it out, and it is a great book. It is a lot of fun to play. I'm very excited to be able to play around with it a little bit more now that I understand how things work. The Mortarks are a heck of a lot better too. Their rules updated and got much better in the book, but with the new 3rd edition rules, my goodness, are they appealing. I'm loving it, and it is great fun, and I would highly recommend anyone who's considering getting into it to try it out. It's just outstanding. It's just great. Next question is by Cenas3. Hey Luka, what do you think about OCR Bone Reapers in 3rd edition Age of Sigmar? They seem to have lost a lot. Maybe an FAQ soon? Question mark. As a main OBR player, I hope so. Thanks for your content. Well, Cenas, you're right. They're not great. They lost a lot with 3rd edition. They took some hits, unfortunately. I was trying to figure out how I'd want to build them, and I played a game, and I realized, no, I don't want to build them that way at all. I'd still probably stick with my usual build. It's just technically weaker now. The main hits there is they had a mechanic for relentless discipline points where instead of just getting the 1 command point a turn, you would generate a pool of discipline points per battle round to use, and you would issue them out as orders to your units. Your unit leaders would issue orders to their own. You would issue an order to the unit leader. The unit leader would tell the unit to do a thing. And that's kind of how command points just work now in general 3rd edition. So pretty much everyone has access to a Bone Reaper rule, making it a whole lot less unique. And they, even in some roundabout ways, get more discipline points, more command points than Bone Reapers could get. So that doesn't feel great. Because you get a slight, you could get a refresh of 2. If you're going to run like Catacross, then no, you're going to get a lot of discipline points. But if you're playing without Catacross, then yeah, you could feel pretty starved on discipline points. And the way that command abilities work now in general really hurt the Bone Reapers. So you can only shield wall once per combat phase instead of on all of your Mortek Guard units. That doesn't feel super good. That doesn't kind of feel... I liked the whole idea of like issuing orders out. I thought that was really cool. Now it's like, okay, only these guys shield wall because they can't do it because the mechanics say we can't do it. Not a big fan of that. So kind of making me want to shy away from them. But at the same time, you know, the rest of the stuff in the Bone Reaper book wasn't super great, right? The Mortek Guard were good. The catapults were good. The harvesters are great. I mean, all that stuff's all kind of the same. And you don't have access to the cool new stratagems, or not stratagems, command abilities that the core rules are incorporating. You can't all-out attack. You can't all-out defense. You cannot, we don't need to Inspiring Presence. You can't redeploy. You know, you can't rally. You can't do any of that as Bone Reaper. So I'm curious what an FAQ will bring to bear for them. Or heck, even a new battle tome. They definitely need one though. It doesn't feel. Someone who's not a Bone Reaper player could be like, yeah, they've had their time in the spotlight. You know, it's time for them to step down and let someone else step up. That's fine. That's true too. They're still very playable. Without a doubt, they're still very playable. It just might not feel super great for a lot of people when they're used to one thing and then they just have to adjust to something else. That's kind of how I felt with the Soulblade Gravelords, right? I was used to Legion of Nagash and them playing a certain way. And now they just play fundamentally different. And I just got used to it, and I thought it was great fun. So maybe that'll be true for, you know, the OCR Bone Reapers in general. I mean, I don't know, but maybe that's the case. Next question by Flameguard. Hey, Luka, what do you think about the restrictions and increasing unit sizes in 3rd edition Age of Sigmar? Do you think Horde armies will have a tougher time now that there won't be as many of them? Yeah. I think that the new reinforcement rule is kind of unique and cool. I haven't found too many books that is hurt per se, other than I felt it when I played the Daughters of Cain. You know, you can't get your Blood Sisters up to 20 anymore. You can only do 15, I suppose, if you're going to make a Meluste your general or a Medusa. 15 is still pretty good. There's no 20, but it's still pretty good. And at the same time, that uses 2 of your reinforcement points, so you'd only have, at a 2,000 point game, 2 more elsewhere. So you have like 2 squads of 15 of them, Blood Sisters, and then your actual battle line, things you want to rush forward with, well, they're going to be pretty sparse. I love restrictions in any format. Please, tell me the 5 things I can do, and then tell me the 50 reasons why I can't do it. I love that. Absolutely, give me a million restrictions, by all means. I'll always play with. The more restrictions, the more fun, in my opinion. In how you, well, not in how you play around them through manipulating it, but like, what cool ideas you come up with lists, because, you know, you have these restrictions. But I haven't found it to be too impactful in a majority of the armies yet. Not yet. There's been a couple times where I thought, well, I would like to make these Mighty Skull Crushers 6 strong, but I don't have any reinforcement points left. But at the same time, Unicoherency says that I probably shouldn't run these guys 6 strong anyways, because those are very restrictive. Those are wild. The new Unicoherency rules are freaking wild, but I love it. Bring it on. Like I said, please bring it on. I think they're great. Will Horde armies have a tougher time? Well, on top of that, Horde armies also lost their I'll say steadfast bravery rule. You don't get bonus bravery for every 10 models anymore. So that inadvertently hurts hordes. A lot of the horde units are losing their bonuses for having lots of models in their unit. And they should be shying away from hordes. I've never liked hordes anyways. And it's like, this is the age of monsters, it really feels like. Monsters are looking real strong in this edition of Age of Sigmar with all the rules they've gotten, on top of, them being kind of okay before. Now they're real good, especially the Giants. The Sons of Behemoth are crazy good. I think horde armies are going to suffer, especially for those people who had massive horde armies that maybe they just have to rethink their builds, right? Things have lost their massive regiment bonuses, so things are more expensive in general, so you can bring less stuff now. A lot has changed for hordes, but like I said earlier, hordes had their time in the spotlight. Maybe it's time for them to step down. Maybe we all could use with moving a little bit less models. Next question. We have Silas Apollo. That makes more sense. I could still be wrong though. Anyways, hey Luka, I am from over the pond in the UK, absolutely loving all the content and you and the other guys are doing. I have recently started watching the Horus Heresy battle reports, all of them, and I was kind of curious how you go about getting into the Horus Heresy. And then another question after that would be that you left down was, could you guys do a Horus Heresy how to play series? For anyone who is curious to get into the Horus Heresy and doesn't want to read through the, potentially intimidating core rulebook, which, if you're a veteran Warhammer player, it is simply a modified 7th edition core rulebook with quality of life changes. Things aren't janky. Things are nice, though it could do with a little bit of trimming in regards to monsters, creatures. Those rules literally do not need to exist. They can just go. I don't want them to be here anymore. Anyways, how do you go about getting into the Horus Heresy? Well, first step, do you have Warhammer 40k Space Marine armies and Chaos Space Marine armies? Because you could very well just play with them and a friend. Honestly, if it's just you guys, and you're playing at a local club, no one's going to tell you can't use those models. I'm even talking about Primaris Marines, because like a lot of the weapons in that game are just bolt guns. So your Primaris Marines with bolt guns are just tactical Marines. I know Heresy fans out there might be like, well, that's heresy. That's fine. But this is for people who have never played before and want to try out the rule set and see how they like it. Now, that's the de facto probably easiest way to get into it if you have already standing Loyalist Marines and Traitor Marines right there. And then, if you like it, you buy into it, you get a Primarch maybe, right? Or you get some of the Horus Heresy exclusive units like Galvorback for Word Bearers, right? Or Tyrant Siege Terminators for Iron Warriors. And that's pretty much all the Horus Heresy is kind of copy-paste mirrored units. Like, I have Tactical Marines that are the same as your Tactical Marines, but me being the Word Bearers, I have a rule called True Believers. I roll 3 dice to take the 2 lowest for leadership. I'm a Space Wolf. I get to add 1 to my run rolls and consolidate rolls, and I get better weapon skill when I charge in. So it's a lot like Bolt Action when I was talking earlier, where it's like the same templates for units, but your Legion special rules change how you play with them. And on top of that, you do have Legion-specific units that are typically a specialized version of a generic unit already in the game. Like the Imperial Fist have a shield, a breacher shield, and a weapon unit that's just the same as a breacher squad, but a fast attack choice instead with additional special rules on top of it. I can't actually apologize. I can't remember what they're called now. But that's all the Horus Heresy is. It's just standard templates augmented by the way your Legion rules work, which is usually pretty basic. And on top of that, you can throw in a Rite of War if you have a high enough level character that kind of mold your force into a way that Legion would narratively play. The biggest complication would be learning or relearning the 7th edition rule set, which is a lot of universal special rules, a lot of them, which I'm always a big fan of because it's only good if you're well versed in it. Because as you're playing, you may have never, especially when the Horus Heresy comes about, you could have never ever played against the Death Guard. But all that Death Guard player has to say is, okay, as Death Guard, my Death Guard units I feel no pain against poison and fleshbane attacks because they're resistant to it. And what else do they get? Oh, they have power size. And there's probably something, oh man, it's kind of bad. Because I'm thinking of the Rite of War rules. The Sons of Barbarous. Yeah. Oh, they're remorseless as well. Like they're minus to their sweeping advance rolls because they're a little bit slower, right? And then you'd be like, oh, my Rite of War gives me move through cover on everything, and I can take rad grenades on my characters, but I can't run, which is pretty rough. You pretty much tell that to someone who's well versed in the rule set, and they would know exactly what your army does, other than the special units, which you could probably go into further details of. But that would be the most daunting task, is like figuring out the rulebook, which comes to the next part of the question: could you guys do a how to play series on Horus Heresy? Oh well, that's a little more complicated. That would take a lot of time. Well, I mean, it wouldn't, but when we were quite busy with 40K stuff, I mean, I could run it by. I don't know how much value that would get. I mean, I know it would be valuable to some individuals, but for us to want to take the time to do it and not record 40K or Age of Sigmar content, it would have to be very valuable. I mean, I could always run it by. I'm pretty sure like Josh has it in the back of his head to do something like that, but is Matthew the one you want to convince to try and do that? So maybe one day, you never know. Maybe if a new edition comes out and they just rewrite the rules a little bit more, that would be a good opportunity to do it. When they're going to do that, no idea. The Horus Heresy train, it's unstoppable. The Heresy train never stops, but it moves slowly. It moves very slowly. So, the Horus Heresy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I actually think the rule set's fine as is. They never need to change it, except they could get rid of the monstrous creature rules, and that'd be fine. Just make everything as a monstrous creature. Oh my goodness, it's like the Walker rules are perfectly fine for them or something. It's crazy. I don't know why. But now, look at Warhammer 40K 9th edition, literally everything's just a monstrous creature now. Anyways, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Arashia, Luka. Excited for Total Warhammer 3? Absolutely. And now you've had some time with the new Soulblight tome. How are you finding it? Okay, well, I already answered that a little bit earlier. I will try to get to another question, but I am very excited for Total Warhammer 3. I've already got it ready to go. Me and my roommate are going to play it a bunch because he is like an avid. He doesn't even play Warhammer, but he is obsessed with Total War Warhammer. He always liked the Total War games, but Total War Warhammer has taken him on this wild journey he's never thought he'd be on. He just pretty much plays it literally every night. Gets home from work, Total Warhammer, and it's awesome. Because I get to talk shop with him. I love Warhammer Fantasy, right? So I get to talk shop with him because he knows everything I'm talking about because he plays Total War Warhammer, and I think that's cool. That's one of my favorite things that Total Warhammer has done, is brought in such a massive audience to the light of Warhammer Fantasy, which is such an amazing setting. And everyone out there will agree with me on that one, because if Warhammer Fantasy has anything, it's got diehard fans that are just obsessed with the lore, the setting, and just literally everything going on. And that's why I love you all. Lastly, Teclis and the Lumineth versus Nagash and the Bone Reapers when? I wouldn't mind doing Nagash and Soulblight Gravelords, maybe. Maybe that one. I would do that. That would have to be maybe my next game against Steve when we get the opportunity to do that. Next question is by, I'm trying to go through these a little bit quicker too because I've realized I've already somehow burnt 42 minutes. Captain Obvious. Josh, you need to go kidnap Cullen whenever it's your turn for the sit and talk. To have the pair of them up there, I get that. Swiss Tiffer. Luka, loved the last few bolt action battle reports you and Josh have filmed. Are you guys planning on putting up more? Yes. Ooh. If yes, would you guys ever consider running some of the campaign books and doing some of those historical battles? I mean, yes, without a doubt we would be interested in doing that. It's just, I'm very novice at the game, and it's a lot of work to focus on recording the content correctly. So it's very easy to fall into the familiar kind of elements of the game. Like, okay, this is what I know. I just have to focus on this. I'm going to add, and like what we do is we'll add like one new thing to focus on. Like all we have to do is worry about this one new thing. So doing like a whole historical thing might be a lot, but might be something we'd be willing to do. And I'll be honest, it's going to take a while before we get there though. But that is definitely something we would do. And plus we would need bigger collections too, because we just have limited collections for our German forces and Russian forces. And Josh has his own American force, which is also very limited. Next question is by Lacken Clark. Luka! Since you're a fan of Soulblight, have you had the chance to watch Netflix Castlevania? And I have. And if so, well, there we go. What are your thoughts on how they portray vampires? Keep up the awesome content. I mean, I guess I'll be honest, I've only seen the first season. I've been waiting for more. So I liked it so much, I just kind of binged it. I was kind of bummed out there was only one season, and then the next one came out, and I'm like, okay, if I really like a show, I will. I hate watching a whole season, and then it takes a while for it to come out, then I kind of forget about it. So that's exactly what happened with Castlevania. It came out, I watched it all right away, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then the next season came out, I'm like, oh, I'll definitely watch that. I never got around to watching that. And then the third season came out, I'll definitely watch that. And I didn't watch it. Well, what's my opinion on those kind of vampires? It's, it's Castlevania. It's kind of a traditional. No, it's more like. Okay, I want to say traditional vampire, but like overwhelmingly powerful traditional vampire. If you've ever played Ravenloft for D&D, it's kind of like a very Strahd-like vampire, kind of like a Dracula-esque, very like proto-vampire, very alpha-dominant vampire, where this one guy is so old and ancient and very powerful, he can manipulate weather, control demonic creatures, the creatures of the night, and pretty much all elements around him, be it nature or mystical or anything along those lines. Omnipotent or omnipotent, omnipresent, in a way omniscient as well, through magical means, like knows everything, is like, or I guess that'd be more omnipresent than omniscient, but at least those two. Like all super powerful, always present, always there. That's always been my favorite take on vampires. At least like old vampires. We're talking like elder vampires here. The older you get, the more powerful you become. And there's like tiers and castes and classes of vampires, right? And I thought Castlevania did an excellent job of that. So that's why I liked it so much. And then next question is by Griff Gang. Luka. Sure hope you read that in caps. I'm sorry. Luka. Sorry. I know it is likely a ways away, but when things get back to normal, are guests allowed to, i.e. guests allowed and bunker open, how far in advance would one need to contact Mini Wargaming to set up getting some games in as a guest? Well, okay, as far as I recall in the past, it was always regarding what game you wanted to play. Warhammer 40K, we're talking half a year to a year in advance. I'm not even kidding, to book time to come in. Age of Sigmar, can you come in an hour? It was pretty much like that. Age of Sigmar, you get in right away. I wonder how that would be now, though, because it's been a while since we have guests in because of the whole global pandemic, and we even stopped having guests a little bit before that because we want to try and take the channel in a different direction. But we miss our guests. We want to bring some guests back. But for Age of Sigmar, it's a heck of a lot more popular now. That's for sure. So I don't know. That's probably not true anymore. And then the more obscure games like Horus Heresy, that was more kind of like whenever Josh would want to fit that in, he's like, oh, I'm kind of craving Horus Heresy, I'll bring that guy in for this. It's kind of like a nice change of pace day, essentially. How do you think guest games will be changed as you all have adjusted to your current format of recording games with each other? I would probably just mic up our guest and just have to be a lot more aware of what they're doing, like hook it up in the proper spot, make sure they're not saying weird things, or we'd probably end up filtering the guests. We had a filter system for guests before. Like you had to have a nicely painted army, you had to have experience in playing that army, or at least some people always lied, right? And then they would be a lot less experienced than they made themselves out to sound to be. So we're always kind of correcting their rules or something like that. So probably like more stricter filtering on the guests. I mean, that's all Josh. If you want more questions on how this would work, definitely ask Josh. Not next week, but he's after Matthew after that. And I don't know, it'd probably just watch what they're doing with the equipment on them and then make sure it's all proper there. Because the problem we always had before is we'd always just record with a hand cam and we would just pick up their audio through like our mic. And that was only on the intro too, so we'd just take up the audio on the camera. We'd have like a little boom on it sometimes, and it just wasn't the best. But now we have the lapel mics and for ourselves, and the audio quality is way better. If you go back and watch a battle report from like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you'd notice a massive difference. Next question, Metal Michael Zero. Hello, Luka. Mini War Gaming introduced me to fantasy, brought me to Steve's channel, Mountain Miniature Gaming, and I, as many others, funded bringing Warhammer Fantasy on his channel. I love playing the role-playing game, 4th edition. I love the randomness of the character creation system. Have you looked into the role-playing game? If you have, what do you enjoy about it? I have not looked into the older versions of Warhammer Fantasy. I've gone back as far as 5th, which is like 2nd edition 40k, which is like you could play there. Like the rule sets were identical. And even the way the magic phase and the psychic phase worked with, like, you had a game. It's one of those like exhibit memes, right? Where you had it was like, yo dog, we heard you like games, so we put a game in your game, so you could play a game while you game. You literally played a card game in the middle of your war game to resolve the magic phase or the psychic phase. That was awesome. I love that. But I've never gone back to, like, I know Rogue Trader existed. I know like first and fourth edition of Warhammer Fantasy existed, where those were very much a role-playing game with wargaming elements added to it. And you had a games master and like special character creation, and it was very unique for its time. I just never went that far back. Would I? Absolutely. But it would be like a big undertaking for us all here. We'd have to, like, a lot of us would have to be on board with that, and we'd all have to read the rules. Because when I went back for second edition Warhammer 40k, I did a few episodes of that with Steve, kind of like a throwback to old school games. And it was a test to see how much you guys would like the old content, and you guys really did enjoy it. Sorry about that. There was a lot of positive feedback for that. And it was just, I read all the rules for second edition. I just made sure everyone knew what was going on. And that's just reading in additional rules, and that's easy enough to do. But I imagine the older fantasy and the older Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader a little more complex, because it does require a games master by nature. But I have not looked at it, so I have no real input in how I feel about it. Fisher! Yo, Luka, what's cracking? Are you still thinking about playing Grey Knights much? I'm waiting for the new codex to come out, and then I will definitely dabble with them when that comes out. I don't want to play them now and be like, oh yeah, new Grey Knights codex is coming out. Ugh. And plus, I don't remember the rules perfectly well. Like, I do remember their rules, but I don't remember the 6 strategies to really make them work again. So I'm just going to wait till the new codex comes out. So that's like a fresh slate, like a new take on it, and just play it from there. What are you expecting or possibly hoping for with their eventual new codex? How do you feel about the teaser for a new Crow model? I'm somewhat disappointed, as he has always been a poor choice for an HQ. Well, you got to imagine that he's probably going to have new rules, right? So if there's going to be a new model, there's going to be new rules, so don't judge him too harshly yet. And as for the direction I think they're going to go in, I'll be honest, I really like the Ritual of the Damned iteration, which is the update they got in that Psychic Awakening book. I thought that they were good fun there. Sorry, I just got to adjust my cord there. I think that, they have +1 cast in the smite spam, the psychic phase manipulation. That was all fun. I'm not a master of Grey Knights. I'm not well versed in them. I've honestly only probably played 10 games with them in all of my Warhammer career. Ever since I've been playing, maybe 10 games of Grey Knights. So I'm not really the person to ask. I absolutely adore them, though. I think their war gear is very fascinating. I love that they play a lot of the phases very well, but you pay a hefty premium for that in their points cost, and I think that's fine. I think that people are having fun with them now, and I think they've hit the ball out of the park with all of these 9th edition codexes. So I would say expect good and fun things for them. But the direction they're going to take them, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of familiar mechanics, but I'm curious what their army rule is going to be. As Grey Knights, their Grey Knight tactic might very well be, they get to reroll wound rolls against demons, their smites do extra wounds against demons, and on top of that, they get bonuses to psychic powers, casting and denying. That's what you get for just being a Grey Knight. But if you bring a detachment, but if your entire army is Grey Knights, we're seeing, a detachment of Necrons gets this, but the army of Necrons, like command protocols, right? Or for Death Guard, a detachment of Death Guard gets this rule in the Plague Company, but your army of Death Guard unlocks contagions. I want to see what that army rule for Grey Knights are going to look like. Very curious. Very curious. Next question. Curtis, the word. Luka, Tallyman. I have seen you play him with roll 7 for a command point, but it is 7+ for a command point. Would that change the odds of bringing it Death Guard for the win? Yeah, so before, the Tallyman's rule used to be every time you use a Death Guard stratagem, roll 2d6. If you roll a 7, you get refunded all of the command points for that stratagem. Now it's, I believe in the command phase, you roll 2 dice. If you roll 7+, you get a command point, which is way better. Plus, he gives something +1 to hit, and he's got like a little plasma pistol. He's not bad to bring. Except, I love a lot of the Fetid Virion units. I like the Foul Blightspawn's amazing. And so, I guess my favorite ones are Foul Blightspawn and the Tallyman. So, like, those are the two I'd often bring. I think there's value in the Plague Surgeon, and The noxious Blightbringer, not too sure if there's a lot of value for him. I haven't at least found it yet. I'm sure there is a lot of reason to bring him, but I haven't. I just haven't had the points for the Tallyman. I haven't. Oh, I like the Biologist Putrefier a lot too, but he's like my third favorite. The Tallyman and the Foul Blightspawn I think are just way better. But I just haven't had the points. I haven't given myself the points for him yet. I find Death Guard to be expensive, as they are. So, yeah. I mean, maybe like I brought him before, and I have played with that rule properly since then. I just haven't really come up yet. Because he's awesome with a big squad of Terminators. Amazing with a giant squad of Terminators. +1 to hit. You got -1 to hit? Vermin Whispers for another +1 to hit. Your Terminators are pretty much, if you have a Tallyman, your Terminators are almost always hitting on a 2+. That's a great investment. That's a great bonus to put on a very big investment of a unit already. Red Mole Ghost. Red Mole, like the animal, the rodent, Ghost. Luka, when are you going to dye your hair again? Oh, yikes. Probably not for a while. I did that for the annual, like one of the annual cottage trips. We usually go up north once in the summer, like once in this fall time. And at this, like we always think of something fun to do. And the last time it was like, hey, because all the girls were dyeing their hair. And then someone had made a comment. I think maybe I like backhandedly joked about, yeah, well, the guys should dye their hair too. And then, it was like, yeah, why don't you? I'm like, I don't know. Nothing's stopping us, I guess. So all the girls dyed all our hair too. And, well, some of us just have to be on camera for work. Well, some of us work in trade too. So like, my roommate, for example, his hair was like a nebula kind of color. It was like purples and there's like spots of white, like kind of like just flicked in there and purples and blues. And it looked like space. It was kind of cool. Anyway, whatever, he's in the trades and he's in restoration. So he goes around to like, sometimes you go to like 10 different houses in a day, and he's got to answer the same questions. Is your hair like purple with white dot, like white spots, and like it kind of looks like his face? Like, yeah. Then he has to explain the whole story. That was kind of funny. I typically had to explain it once on camera, and then everyone kind of understood it. When am I going to dye my hair again? I don't know. When someone brings it up again. Would I do it again? Sure, whatever. It wasn't too bad. I didn't mind it. I actually forgot it was there often. And then I go out in public and I get the looks. Because I also had the dyed beard too, so it was like so vibrant. It was so vibrant at first, it was insane. But it was good fun. I do, and whatever, I do like being the center of attention, so I didn't mind it deep down inside. Right now, I liked everyone looking at me. It was kind of fun. All right, last question before I run out of time. This one's by Big Mikey. Luka. I'm sure this will be beaten to death, but biggest hits / misses in Age of Sigmar 3rd edition so far / wish list for future army changes. Well, you know what, Big Mikey? This has not been beaten to death yet. We talk about this all the time in-house. All the time. But, I can talk with you guys about it. I think biggest hits, biggest misses. Well, it is a heck of a lot more interactive between both players now. That is a big hit. Command points. You move there, I'm going to redeploy, move d6 inches in this direction now. Or you're going to do that, I'm going to all-out defense, or I'm going to all-out attack, or I'm going to unleash hell over here. Just the command point interactions with command abilities and how that works in the phases. Big hit. Awesome hit. Buffs to monsters. Big hit. Monsters, I think they're called monstrous rampages. Awesome. I really think the heroic actions in each player's hero phase is good fun too. Again, that's more interaction. Makes a double turn feel less, right? Oh, I get to go again? Well, at least I still get to do all the stuff I get to do, and I get more command points to do more command actions with too, so that's kind of fun. And the new General's Handbook has great influence over that as well. I think we're finally starting to step into the area of maybe the double turn isn't so bad. Maybe you have to think about it a little bit more before you do take it. Things like that. I think those are all hits. Where we have some misses in match play, terrain. What is going on, man? Like, there's like lack of terrain altogether. They don't have the terrain traits anymore. Overgrown, as useless as it was before, because everything that was an annoyance had fly and ignored it anyways, is now built into woods, Sylvaneth Wildwoods, where you just can't see if you draw a line more than 3 inches deep in them, which is, I think it used to just be 1 inch before, so it's even harder to accomplish that. So you just have to kind of stand behind them for the most part, or like barely in them across from the other unit trying to shoot at you. But heck, they even implemented the rule, if you're a model with enough wounds, you're big enough to kind of stand over the woods and therefore can be seen. So you can't hide big things behind it, but at the same time, big things, I'm pretty sure big things can just shoot through them anyways because they don't care. They're big enough to see the end of the woods. And again, big things are the problem. But then again, you have things like Carriage on Overlords who don't really care about that rule because they just fly high, and deploy somewhere where the woods would not be blocking per se. So I think a big miss is solid terrain rules for match play. They have terrain traits and everything for narrative play, but I mean, that doesn't carry over to match play. Not that those terrain traits are really that great. Now, they do have an emphasis and more clarification on garrisons, so I'm not too sure if Games Workshop's saying just use more garrisons, because the garrison rules are great. You get, +1 to your saves, -1 to hit. Those are awesome terrain rules. But, maybe we just need to play with more garrisons and more garrisonable terrain, right? Maybe that's the problem. We just haven't done enough of that. What else is a big miss? I think it's a great addition. I had just read through the General's Handbook, and I think the new missions, the new match play missions in that are outstanding. And it kind of looks like we're going to have seasonal realms, or at least supplements that are going to release extra realms. Because right now in General's Handbook, you only have the Realm of Beasts. And the Realm of Beasts implements rules in every match play game, such as, new grand strategies you pick when you build your army, and new battle tactics you pick every battle round. And you always play every match play game from chapter approved in the Realm of Beasts. As of right now, they might release new supplements in White Dwarfs. Okay, this is how you play in the Realm of Shadows. Or maybe it will be seasonal every year. Next year, we're playing in the Realm of Shadows or Realm of Life or whatever, right? And there's going to have new twists on the rules then. I think that's kind of exciting and kind of fun. I can look forward to that. I can really look forward to that. I think just a miss is just the terrain. The lack of the dropping of War Scroll battalions and the implementation of core battalions is interesting. It's very interesting. Is it a hit or a miss? I don't know yet. Because I was tired of War Scroll battalions. They ate up a good chunk of your points, and you'd always just have the same thing in every list. Now lists can change, but you don't have those cool, little fluffy War Scroll battalions. That's less rules to have to remember too, so that's kind of nice. I'll go neutral on that one. Off the top of my head, big hits, monster reactions, command points, a lot of interactions. The new General's Handbook match play rules make the double turn feel a lot less worse. And the big miss would be the lack of terrain rules, because I thought they did such a good job with Warhammer 40K's terrain rules, and I thought we're going to see even better terrain rules with AOS 3.0, but they seem a little lacking right now. But I mean, I'm not taking away from the credit. Age of Sigmar 3rd Edition is an amazing edition, but if I had to say there's a miss, I would like more terrain rules, and that's about it. That's about it. Now, folks, my throat is sore. I need more water. I talked a lot. I was very excited. And I'm very tired for some reason. So it is time to bid you adieu. Don't forget, next week will be Matthew's Sit and Talk, where he will answer as many questions as you leave him in the allotted time he is given to do so. So again, that'll be from miniwargaming.com. That's where he'll be reading the questions from. But he might make his way to YouTube. So thanks again for tuning in. You can always email me at luka@miniwargaming.com if you have further questions. I try my best to get back to every email. And thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this was enjoyable. Hopefully you got some models painted. And I'll see you in the next battle report very soon. Happy wargaming, everyone.